What's up, guys and girls? Giovanni here, and I'm here to do another fantasy booking video, and this time it's about Candice LeRae and her heel turn. So with that, let's get into the video.
Alright then. On with the show.
So far, I've liked what I've been seeing from her. Now, this all came about on a digital exclusive where Candice told Indi that she didn't want to wait for the opportunities to come to her. Eventually, she's all about the here and now. Since then, she's been slowly turning heel. And the best thing she's done so far to me is when she made Maxine Dupree cry about her brother in the women's locker room talking behind her back and doing other things to make sure she gets victories. So, let's build upon that. On the next edition of Monday Night Raw, there are 4 segments in a match. Segment 1. Chad Gable will be talking to Maxine about growing confidence and not letting the hate and criticism get to her. Candice earlier in the day will say another bad thing about Maxine, which will be released to the public. Not only does she talk about her dead brother again, but she says it like Christian Cage, because your brother is dead. She will also bring up her other brother, and he goes by L.A. Knight. Yeah, Candice will say there's a reason why he left you, because he couldn't stand your ass as a sister. And I was doing a little bit of research to come to find out you were adopted. This would be a nice way to build up the Maxine lore. Back to the show. Chad leaves Maxine and you can see her getting angry. Number 2, Chad Gable talks to Johnny Gargano and tells him to talk to his wife and that her being rude needs to stop. Number 3, Johnny talks to Candice about this attitude she's been having recently. Indi has told Johnny about how she's been acting, but she thought she could handle it. That's why he hasn't been involved this whole time. Johnny will say this during their conversation. So, I've been talking to the women in the locker room to get a feel of what's been going on, and from what I've gathered, you've been acting a little bit poisonous to them, which is a reference to her nickname, the Poison Pixie. Just like what Candice told Indi, she says to Johnny, you either like it or leave it. She then leaves the locker room to go get ready for her match. The match is Maxine and Ivy Nile versus The Way. During the close of the match, Indi runs over to Maxine, who is on the apron, and starts thinking about attacking her, as this was Candice's plan, because this would distract Ivy for them to get the win. But Indi and Maxine just stare at each other. Maxine's like, what are you doing? Get back to your corner. Indi has no response and just struggles to decide whether she should attack her or not. Maxine decides to get off the apron and smack Indi in the face, telling her to get it together. This distracts Ivy, to which Candice comes up from behind and rolls her up for the victory. Indi, while holding her face from the smack, comes in the ring and has her concern/disappointment face on once again, while Candice jumps for joy. Now this is when segment number 4 happens. Maxine goes over to the timekeeper area to grab a mic and delivers a promo to Candice. Maxine is a good talker, at least in my eyes. Ivy stands by her side. The first thing Maxine says on the mic is,
let me talk to you.
She talks and talks, and she ends up issuing a one-on-one challenge against Candice on the Raw After Mania. Candice laughs at this, but decides to accept it. Maxine continues talking, saying, ever since you joined the main roster, you have been irrelevant, unlike me. And after that, she says,
okay, and that is not an insult, that is just a fact of life. Yeah!
Adam Pearce makes it official. So skipping to the Raw After Mania, there are going to be 3 segments and a match. 1. Indi sees Candice talking to Rhea Ripley, who retained her title. She says, why are you talking to her? Don't you remember what she did to you? What she did to us? Are you joining the Judgment Day? Is that why you took that photo with her? Whoa, 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 whoa. Slow down. I still hate her. But recently, we've been talking about some stuff. One of those being that she's been liking my attitude change, and I've been keeping my composure to hear her out. She made a few good points, and when she asked me to recreate that photo, I obliged. You don't have to worry about anything. Segment 2. Johnny brings Quill to the show. Maxine meets him for the first time. Maxine comes up to Johnny. Is this your son? Yep. This is him. It's nice to meet you, Quill. This is Maxine, the one I've been telling you about. Maxine? Yes. Quill turns his attention to Maxine. You suck. He didn't mean that. He didn't mean that. Who told you that?
Mom.
Oh, I'm gonna kill her. Maxine storms off in anger. She ends up walking past by Nikki Cross, who is still wandering around. It's now time for the match. Maxine Dupree versus Candice LeRae with Indi Hartwell in her corner. Ivy is not there as she was mysteriously attacked by someone. I will use this match to show how far Maxine has developed as a wrestler. For me, her best performance was that Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match. Candice's job is to make Maxine look good and have a outstanding performance. Right before the bell rings, Candice says, "I'm about to wrestle circles around you." The bell rings and the match begins. Now, there are 3 spots I want to point out that will happen during the match. 1. Maxine does her backwards worm spot. Number 2, she does the Chad Gable kick to the gut and then saying swoosh in front of their face. Number 3, Candice is coming close to losing, and for the entire match, Indi hasn't been involved because Candice thought this would have been a clean sweep, so she didn't need a distraction to win. However, that's the case now, and saying that, I'm gonna split the paths into 2 options on whether story can go on from here. Path 1, Indi Hartwell does not help Candice win and makes her lose, remaining as a face, and Candice goes solo. Indi helps Maxine pick up the victor. Candice gets in front of Indi's face and starts yelling at her. Indi starts beating up on Candice, telling her this is not the way it should have been. From there, the Raw before Backlash, it's Candice LeRae versus Indi Hartwell. Though I want to mention that on the build to the Raw before Backlash, Candice is gonna look for Nikki Cross and reunite with her. She tells Nikki that she knows she is to blame as to why they stopped being friends and why she's in this whole trance to begin with, but she wants to make it up to her. And with that, after doing that favor for Candice on attacking Ivy Nile and being sincere about breaking up, Nikki decides to get back together with her. When the match happens, Nikki helps Candice beat Indi, and for the remainder of the year and into 2025, Candice becomes a dominant solo wrestler. Candice will get her revenge against Xia Li and beat her. It would be heel versus heel, but that doesn't matter. There will be times her and Nikki will team up, but Nikki's really gonna be in a manager supporting best friend role. They will go after the women's tag team titles, but will ultimately fail. The only downside to this option is that Indi is gonna be forgotten and be in catering. Now let's dial it back and go down path number 2, and that Indi helps Candice beat Maxine. After the match, Candice and Indi grab chairs and beat her with them. Otis then makes his way down to make the save, to which they leave the ring and do the hand arm pose, laughing and smiling while looking at Maxine while she cries in pain while Otis holds her in his arms. Segment 3. This happens on path 1 or 2. Johnny gets into Candice's and Indi's face and says,
"What the hell was that?"
"That was totally uncalled for. What is wrong with you two? And Indi, you've been telling me you didn't want to go back down this dark path. Well, looks like you are a hypocrite. What would Dexter think? Even though my sweet little Dexter is with his parents, I know if he was here, he would love this bad side of me." We are angry and have had enough of losing and being irrelevant. Let us remind you that the women's tag team titles weren't even defended at WrestleMania, while you two got to be on the card. On top of that, why aren't you too angry that you lost to those I'm a goofy goober idiots? Awesome Truth. Of course we're angry and disappointed, but you dust yourself off and get back up on that horse to get another chance. I will then set up Awesome Truth versus DIY for the titles at Backlash and have DIY win. Awesome Truth don't need to hold those titles for no longer than a month. You know what? We'll do our thing at home, but at work, I can't be seen with you two. This writes off Johnny and Ciampa not interacting with the ladies as much anymore. When the draft happens, all 5 members of the Way stay on Raw. Just like Path 1, Candice will bring Nikki into the fold. It's a 3-woman trio. Candice as the leader, Indi as the co-leader, and Nikki as the crazy elder. At SummerSlam, after being dominant for months, they go on to win the tag team titles. All 3 ladies celebrate. Okay, well, let's move on to the last topic. Nikki Cross, for people who don't know, in November is going to be running a marathon. And so whether if it's Candice going solo or Indi being with Candice, Nikki will be attacked to write her off TV. I would say September, October, maybe, so she could start training. Then at the Rumble, Candice, who will be the Iron Woman, by the way, Nikki makes her return. At WrestleMania 41, it's Candice versus Nikki. This is where you have a women's feud, not for a title, or it's The Way versus Twisted sanity. Alexa saw Nikki in drought, and so she decided to help. In both paths, Candice LeRae only used Nikki. She knew she was loyal and knew she cared for her. In the last video, Nikki was the heel and Candice was the face. Well, it's been flipped, where Nikki is the face and Candice is the heel. If you want to learn more about how the build will essentially be, go watch the other fantasy booking video. Either path, Nikki is walking out WrestleMania 41 with the victory. For 2 years, this story has been in the making and comes to an end. Now, that's all I have to say about that. Let me know in the comments. Do you have any hope on this Candice heel turn? Or do you think it'll be dropped in like 2 months? Do you want to see them finish the Nikki Cross Trance storyline? Because I know I do. I almost forgot. With Candice and possibly Indi too going heel, I'm gonna need a new render of them not smiling. And if they are smiling, it better be some evil smirk smile like the one Candice has with Rhea. But with that being said, get your fingers up and say it with me. Being bad is the way to ensure success. Bye.